Alright guys, we gotta get this one right. On three, we're gonna say welcome back to Extraordinary Thoughts for On Their Mind. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to our Mind.
And we back.
That'll work right there.
Yeah.
And we back. And we
Yeah.
back. And we back. And we back. And we
Y'all did y'all best. And that's all that matters.
Now, before we get started with this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this episode, share this podcast, and if you can, do me a favor, head on down to the review section and leave an honest review, because this podcast was dedicated to helping us become a better version of ourselves. And I don't know what that version is, but I know that just like we need a little bit more money, just like we need a little bit more sleep, just like we need a little bit more of anything in life, we deserve to be a little better than what we are right now. What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Thoughts for the Ordinary Mind. What's going on, everybody? Today, I really wanted to just hop on here and talk about the beauty of adversity. You know what I mean? Like the beauty of adversity and the power of resiliency. And I bring that up because as I sit back, you know, for those who don't know, I've been in the military. We're going on 14 years. 14 years and in a week, it'll be 14 years. And as I sit back and I say to myself, you know, I really wanted to just tough times build tough people. Like tough times really build tough people. And I say that because I reflect on my upbringing. I reflect on my career. I reflect on the decisions that I have made and the consequences of my decisions and how it essentially ended up molding me into the person that I am today. It molded me into the Marine that I am today. And it ended up molding me into the leader that I am today. So when I say that tough times really build tough people, I really mean that. I really mean that. Now, for those who don't know, you know, I work at a place where I create tough times for people. You know what I mean? Like we create tough times for people to essentially help them become a better version of themselves. And one of the biggest things that always gets under my skin, is the idea of motivation. Now, before I start, I really want to just let everybody know, like I don't have anything against motivation. I don't have anything against motivation. What I do have an issue with is the idea that being motivated is going to help you get through the situation. You know what I mean? Like, because you're motivated, it's going to help you get through the adversity. It's going to help you get through the friction. It's going to help you get over the obstacle. Like being motivated is going to help you get through the trials and tribulations that life is about to give you. And I just really want to just stop for a second and just let everyone know that it will help you start. Motivation will help you get started, but motivation will always fade in the face of adversity. And I'm not saying that from a place of anger. I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance. I say it from a place of experience. Because I have been through it and I have also seen it. Time and time again, do I see somebody and they motivated? You know what I mean? They ooh-rah and they yut-yut and they excited to get started. But the moment that they get started and things do not go their way, eventually that motivation that they had in the beginning, it fades. And it gets quiet. And then sooner than later, somebody always ends up quitting. Somebody always ends up tapping out. Somebody always ends up walking away. Like, what happened to that goal in the very beginning? What happened to that motivation in the very beginning? The reality is that the motivation always fades. So when I tell you that tough times build tough people, it really does. And there's a beauty in adversity that I don't think a lot of people really understand. And as I reflect, I think about growing up in the city of Detroit. And at the moment during that time, I used to sit back and say how much that I can't wait to leave. I can't wait to, have a better life, not realizing that the life that I'm currently living is setting me up for the life that I'm going to live in the future. Like when I got to boot camp, I remember being in boot camp and looking around and everybody was all excited. You know, I'm about to be a United States Marine. I'm about to be a Marine. And then as soon as them drill instructors came out, you know, as soon as that friction started to come out, I'm talking about I think it was week 6. And during week 6, you see people all crying and stuff, talking about how they want to go home. And I was the only one. I was like one of the few that just sat back and was like, regardless of the situation, how bad this is going to get, I'm not going home. Regardless of how bad this situation get, it's not worse than the situation that I came from. Like tough times build tough people. And when I say that tough times build tough people, I really want you to understand that you in a situation that you may not like, not realizing that you came from a worse situation. You came from a worse environment. This environment that you currently in ain't shit. And that's exactly what I would tell myself every single day. Yeah, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's bad. But what I came from was worse. What I grew from was worse. Throughout my career, I have faced some type of adversity. And I thank God every single time because I have been able to get over it. So when we dive into this episode, I really want you to understand that, you know, there's a beauty. There's a beauty in adversity. One of the most beautiful things about adversity is that it tends to show you who you are and who everyone else is. And just like what I mentioned earlier, where they come in, they motivated. And to be honest with you, I'm going to just keep it 100. Every time I see somebody that's motivated, you know what I mean? Right before we go through some shit, I got my eye on him. I got my eye on him because I'm wondering how he's going to perform during the situation. During the event, during the adversity, I really want to know how he's going to perform. You ain't going to get no praise out of me during that time because of the simple fact that I want to see how you're doing. Because it seems like during that time, right, adversity has a way of showing us exactly who we are and who everyone else is. Have you ever seen somebody and they go through a situation and the situation essentially it changes them? You know what I mean? Like it changes them a little bit. Like all of a sudden they break down. Like you ever seen somebody hard go through a situation and they come out soft? It's the adversity. Have you ever seen somebody that you thought was soft and then they go through it and they come out hard? And I really wanted to just take a moment, man, because I know it's somebody on this episode right now that's probably listening. You know what I mean? They probably listening, and I know they've been through some shit that they thought was going to break them, but then they come out of the situation like, damn, I made it through. And in the same lips, I really wanted to just take a moment because I know there's somebody that went through a situation with somebody else and you looked at them and saw them switch up and you was just like, damn, was it really that bad? You know what I mean? Like you was talking real good in the very beginning. You was making it seem like as if like you was going to be there for me at the very end of it. But the moment that times got tough, you got going. Like the moment that this shit finally got bad, you had to get out of there. And I remember, and I bring that up because I remember there was a time, it was 2015. 2015, I was on my second deployment, and I had a sergeant out there, and during that time while we was out there on that deployment, I remember while we were back in the rear, you know how he would talk about how he's such a great sergeant, you know what I mean? How he's such a good leader. And when we got to the deployment and shit wasn't going the way that it was supposed to go, and time started to get tough, I looked up and noticed that he was no longer there. And this ain't one of the moments where, you know, in the Bible where they said like there was 2 footprints in the sand, but when times got hard, there was only 1 footprint. And the guy realized that, you know, it was Jesus carrying him throughout the entirety. Absolutely not. He was gone. This sergeant who said that he was going to be there in the very beginning, you know what I mean? Who said that he had my back no matter what the situation was. The moment that shit got bad, he got out of there. And I bring that up because adversity has a way of showing you who is there for you. Adversity has a weird way of showing you who's there for you. A lot of people, they ain't good leaders. You know what I mean? They ain't good leaders. It's just a good time to be a leader. You feel me? A lot of people not really motivated. It's just a good time to be motivated. And I bring that up, man, because you probably have seen it on like a battalion run, or when somebody like working out, like they able to go back and help somebody out because they not stressed out. They not under pressure. This ain't bad for them. And this is not me taking away from their hard work. This isn't me taking away from the time, the effort that they put in to get to that moment where it's not bad for them, but it's just me acknowledging the fact that it's not bad for them. So it's easy for them to go back and make it seem like as if they're helping other people. But the moment that things get rough, that's when you start to notice people. That's when you start to notice if it's bad for others. Because either A, they're going to continue to keep moving forward, or B, they will stop and leave. Another thing that's truly beautiful about the adversity is the resiliency. You know what I mean? Like during adversity, let me rephrase that. After the adversity, you find out who's truly resilient. And notice that I said after adversity, because when we always talk about resiliency, you know, we always talk about it in a sense of, you know, this is you during. This is you before. I'm resilient, so I'm going to get through this. Absolutely not. Resiliency is you afterwards. It's how you bounce back from the situation. You lost everything, and now here's the resiliency of you. Either you're going to get up and move forward, or you're going to wallow in what you have right now. You hit rock bottom, and you either about to climb back up, or you're going to be stuck down there. And when we talk about resiliency, man, like I really want to just tell you that because of my resiliency, that's why I'm the leader that I am now. Because of my ability to bounce back. You feel me? That's why I am who I am now. I remember when I got my NJP. And for those who are listening, you know exactly what I mean when you get in trouble, like when you face some type of like, you know, get a black eye or a smudge on your career, like it really holds you back. And I remember for the next 6 years, working my ass off to overcome a black eye, to overcome my NJP, to go up on each board and lose, not because they were better than me, but because I was the one that had got in trouble. And each time I would feel like shit, but no matter what the situation was, I would get back up and I would do it again. You ever seen somebody and they go through a situation and all of a sudden they don't want to do it no more? Matter of fact, I ain't even going to ask you if you have ever seen somebody. I know somebody on this episode. I know somebody listening to this episode right now has seen somebody start a goal, have some type of dream, some type of aspiration, and they get started. And the moment that shit blow up in their face, all of a sudden they don't want to do it no more. You in a relationship, and the moment that y'all have y'all first argument, you out of there. You at a job, and the moment that you get a little friction, you out of there. Everything was going good, and you was talking about how much you love this. But the moment that it did not go the way that you wanted it to go, you were out of there. Having been through the adversity and bouncing back, and I'm going to say, and I know I say it in a lightly, but the reality is that that's hard. It was hard to do. To get up every single morning and tell myself that I was still good. To tell myself that I got to work harder. That if I want to be first place, then I got to work as if I was competing for first, second, and third. That's what I used to have to tell myself. That no matter how good you are always going to come in second place. So you have to double down on your effort every single time. That shit is hard to do, but I did it. I had to. Because I was able to get through it, right? I developed a certain level of emotional and mental toughness that a lot of my peers did not have. And I really just want to tell somebody, man, like that's listening to this episode, like the obstacles that you have faced and overcome has given you the ability to be tougher than the other person next to you. You know, like it's somebody right now that's not fazed by the little shit. Like the things that be blowing up in everybody else's face. Like when things get wrong, when things go wrong and there's a storm brewing, you can look over and tell that person is not really fazed. And it's not because they don't care. It's because they've been through a storm before. You know what I mean? They've been through a storm before, and because of their ability and because of their resiliency, they were able to overcome it. That's the beauty in adversity. And I really wanted to get this episode off my chest because you will never be successful if you're afraid of the adversity. Like, you will never be successful if you're afraid to step out of your comfort zone. If you're afraid to fall on your face, you will never know what it truly means to run. If you're afraid to get out there, you will never get out there. No matter how talented you are, if you're afraid to test out, if you're afraid to truly put your stuff to the test, you're never going to be successful. And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Stay tuned every Monday as we bring you another episode. And lastly, don't forget to like this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, and share this podcast because this podcast was dedicated to helping you become a better version of yourself. And I don't know who needs to hear that, but just like we need more sleep, just like we need more money, we deserve to be a better version of ourselves. Stay hungry, stay motivated. I'm out.